By the way, here's our spoiler alert.
Welcome to Sincast, presented by CinemaSins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Sincast. We are doing a minipod of Star Trek Beyond, which means we lied last time. We said we were going to do Jason Bourne next, but we lied. We straight up lied to you, but we're going to give you more content today. But anyway, I am Chris Atkinson with CinemaSins, joined as always by the voice of CinemaSins, Jeremy Scott.
Hola.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Scher.
Hello.
And Star Trek Beyond, guys, what did we think of this movie?
And I liked it.
Yeah, what the hell happened there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Barrett feels.
I did like it.
Yeah?
I don't think I liked it as much as you guys liked it.
Okay, well, this could be a case of... I don't think the movie's perfect. It's got plenty of issues, and we'll get into that, but it's so much fun. And the cast is so engaging. They're so great with each other. They're so charming and charismatic. And this movie's clearly... It could have been subtitled, "We really trying to capture the feel of the original show."
Oh, yeah.
Right? And... those who were turned off by 2009 Star Trek not being Trekky enough, even though I think that's a fantastic movie, they should be won back by this, right?
Yeah, this is something that could function as a Star Trek episode in many ways, and a lot of times that's not a good thing because it's like that means it's something that's 30 minutes that's been stretched out to 2 hours.
Right.
But in this case, this is like a good, satisfying 2-hour episode of Star Trek, and what I liked about this immediately, and maybe this is just a function of the movies we've been seeing this summer or the past few summers or whatever, it's very simple.
Yeah.
There's no let's go off into the woods for 15 minutes and let's prop up the next movie we're going to be making and all that. Even though there's like a hint of possibly what we're going to be seeing in the next Star Treks and whatever. That it's very simple, hey, let's go to this place. Oh, this guy's evil. Let's go beat him up.
Well, it's interesting. One of the first things that Kirk says in his captain logs is this is starting to feel episodic.
Yeah.
This whole movie felt episodic.
It was such a clear mention of what we're experiencing with Star Trek.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked it just for the fact that it just was simple and there wasn't a lot of just why did they do this and why did they do that and why and what fan service are they doing here and all that. It's a simple story, and not only is it simple, but I felt like it gets really cool towards the end of it too. Mm-hmm. It's Spock comes up with the solutions of things that need to happen and all that. It's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, and it's cool, and they're going to be able to do that. And by the way, here's our spoiler alerts here that we're going to put at the beginning of this thing. But the best fucking use of a song in a movie, just for plot purposes, I've ever seen.
And I have not been a big fan of the series' use of 20th century music so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like teenage Kirk stealing a car, jamming to the Beastie Boys didn't make a ton of sense to me. But the way the music is used here, first of all, it's there because of a crew that's hundreds of years old, so they would have brought something like that. Mm-hmm. And then we get the tie back to that Beastie Boys song, and Kirk, God, Chris Pine is so good, and his line, "That was a good choice."
Yeah.
It's so good. And some of the criticisms I've seen in this movie online are that they don't explain a lot of things, but that has never been Trek. Trek has always been technobabble. Scotty can fix it. We just need time. And so I'm not bothered by any of that. The solution comes together very quickly in this movie.
It does.
No one even bothers to ask, how are we going to shoot them, until they're right up on that enemy fleet. That's the first time he goes, our weapons aren't very good.
This is your typical Spock figure something out for the third act type of moment.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing that they do in Star Trek 2 when he's like, his patterns indicate two-dimensional thinking, and just out of nowhere. And but in this, it's like they seem to be flying around like bees.
Yeah.
let's find that signal that's causing all them to coordinate and everything, and then like, hey, let's use this VHF frequency to get the music to blow their. I just loved that. I mean, it was simple, but it made sense to me as far as they come up with a solution way too soon. I wish Spock had said something earlier where he's like, they seem a little like bees to me. Weird or whatever.
I'll go back to that later.
But the best part about this is the rapid fire. Everybody's thinking on the same page, and like one character will say something, Scotty will say something, Sulu will say something, Uhura will say something, and they're all just on the same page. And then they come up with this ridiculous, Beastie Boys idea, which I cannot believe I loved.
It's just so over the top. It's perfect.
Yes. Yeah, they just did it right.
And Carl Urban.
Yeah.
He may be better at Bones than the original
Bones. I think
Bones.
he is.
He's so great in that role. He gives us the dry wit and humor, and I loved seeing him paired up with Spock in this movie for an extended period of time. And I actually thought all the pairings, the way they sort of separated them before bringing them back together, gave us interesting perspectives, like Sulu and Uhura together, and Kirk was off with Chekhov, and anyway, I really enjoy the actors playing these characters.
It almost felt like they were sort of purposely trying to do that, where they're trying to get characters that aren't usually interacting with each other to do that. By the way, when the Enterprise starts shooting off all those like pods and everything, and there's like millions of crew members coming off, where did they go?
Well, I think they're suggesting the crew is smaller than that the crew is maybe more like hundreds, and that many of them probably died in that assault. Because as soon as the pods start going out, the enemy ships start crashing into the pods.
Oh, okay.
And so I think there's only so many that get to the surface.
But then they just are left there, I guess. They're left on the planet.
I don't know.
That was one thing I was like, you smashed a few of them, but you didn't get them all.
Well... And I'm tired of seeing the Enterprise get destroyed.
Yeah.
For the sake of, like, they even give us this moment where Kirk climbs over the ridge and sees the wreckage and has this, like Morpheus mourning the Nebuchadnezzar or whatever. And I'm just like, you've already blown up, like, one or two versions of this ship in this series so far. But thankfully, it's really spectacular looking when the ship goes down. And they get it out of the way right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
I love... Like you were talking about the simplicity of the plot, and especially the villain, and how they tie that back around to their solution to get off the planet and his origin, I thought was really beautifully simple.
Well, and at first I was like, okay, here's another villain that they're not going to delve too deeply into, and he's just a bad guy or whatever. And like, I was worried about that, but then I realized there's really good reason for it. They have the surprise, that it's this guy from, the USS Franklin that lands on the thing, and like, and it's also a great actor too. Idris Elba is playing it. Now, for a while there, I had X-Men Apocalypse flashbacks on that, because I was like, here's a guy buried in makeup. I know it's an actor. I can't figure out who it is. Yeah. But luckily I didn't, because I think it would have distracted if I had known that was Idris Elba the whole time. Or whatever.
I spent the whole movie trying to figure out who the white-faced girl with black streaks was.
Now
Me too.
And it's the girl from Kingsman.
Mm-hmm. She's the Blade. Leg chick.
I didn't recognize her at all, but I thought she was a really fun addition.
She's fantastic.
I'm going to tell you right now, that's the best addition in this entire franchise. Yeah. In fact, I think Star Trek finally has its own Boba Fett and that character.
That could be. She's got lots of cool toys. Mm-hmm. She brings humor because she only does English like 20% of the way.
Yeah.
And so she keeps calling him Montgomery Scotty, which is hilarious to me.
My favorite part is when she's listening to the Public Enemy song, and she's like, I like the beats and the shouting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because the last movie made such a big deal about Alice Eve like staying on the Enterprise with the crew after that adventure, and she's nowhere in this movie.
She's like a Bond girl.
She must have said, I got to get this stink off of me. And again, see, what we're talking about here is both the success of this movie and the failure of Into Darkness is that it went so far in fan service. I think if you take all of those Wrath of Khan, retread, flip-flop beats out of that film, Into Darkness is probably really well liked.
Yeah.
And this movie doesn't try to do that. They don't try to cram Klingons at you or Romulans or any moments from the show that you're used to. What they do is they give you a colorful new planet with colorful new alien characters, and they give you a simple adventure.
Yeah.
And some of the biggest laughs are just facial expressions.
Yeah.
Like when they finally get that ship pushed off the cliff and it drops and they actually get it to go and it flies, Sulu looks at Chekhov with this, I can't believe that actually worked kind of face.
Yeah.
He had been so damn confident right before that. And it's just a quick little flash, but I laughed for like 30 seconds after that.
Everybody's got a good beat. He's got a good beat, Sulu does, right before they go down, where he's like, can you fly this thing? He's like, you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay, he's a badass. All
well,
right, we get it.
All the hubbub over the Sulu is gay, turns out to be a very small moment.
Yeah.
Where they arrive at this starbase and his husband and daughter are there and he hugs them both and then they walk off. It was nothing in your face, and even if the original Sulu is not a fan, I saw it as a tribute to George Takei.
Well, and they could have gone so much farther on that and it would have been ridiculous, They could have had people on the crew questioning him about it.
Yeah.
They could have had his husband showing up on the ship and them having fights and like, well, that's okay. They fight like we do, or bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Was the stuff that you would see in a movie where they're trying to make a character something. And this one is not a big deal at all.
Right. Right. I thought if you're going to do that, I thought it was the best way to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of the starbase, before we move to what we don't like, Yorktown is badass.
Yorktown is badass, but Yorktown is also kind of Elysium, isn't it?
Yeah. It's Elysium, and it's the thing in Interstellar at the end.
And the thing in Guardians of the Galaxy, that planet where they all come together.
But yes, it is badass.
What's funny is when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, great, Earth is in peril again. Nope, not Earth. It's just a very huge space station that might as well be Earth because they're building a new Enterprise there at the end of this film. And actually, I kind of liked that shot. It's time-lapse to where it's spinning around the ship and you see it get built really fast. And there have been so many spaceship porn shots of the Enterprise in so many movies. That was a new way to give me that perspective. I liked that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yorktown was badass.
Well, and not only is it badass, it actually figures into the plot, which I don't think it ever did before in Elysium or Interstellar or anything like that. In this one, there's a whole thing with the gravity and all that that turns into a really great action scene.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Like everything in this movie that does that forms an action scene. It's the plot causing the action scene, not the action scene causing whatever they come up with at the moment or whatever.
Right.
It actually has a serving to the plot rather than, well, let's try this and that'll be cool and whatever. This is perfect. So many things that happen in this are perfect for the.
And you're oriented on the planet they're in, and then you're oriented typically at Yorktown too, and then on the ship and everything. You kind of have an idea of where everything is. Like they'll look at even when the dish was just sitting there and they were having to climb up and boost the rockets where it would flip over. You kind of knew where the bridge was that they were getting to, and then where they're all sliding and everything.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's so many positives to this movie that the negatives really are you can shrug them off.
Well, one thing that's just kind of an unfortunate timing is that I feel like Anton Yelchin was given the least to do in this movie.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which is nobody's fault in the sense that nobody knew he was going to die tragically. But we missed the magical last great performance here in this role because he's Kirk's sidekick for a while and he keeps giving Kirk updates on stuff, but he doesn't really have too many great moments.
But you know what is great about him, and this happens in all three of the Star Treks, is he is so enthusiastic every time he he's like the ship is coming in, Captain. And he's like he's just excited about everything, and it's what makes him so magnetic as a performer.
Well, and that's why I loved him so much in Into Darkness when he gets thrust into the chief engineer role and has to deliver a lot of lines like that.
Yeah.
Another problem I had, and this is very CinemaSins-y, it's only really a half-second problem, and then I put it out of my head and watch the rest of the movie. But can you really ride a motorcycle over rocks that are the size of people's heads? Like, the whole surface there is giant rocks, and he's riding that motorcycle around like it's a dirt track. Like, I was... Maybe I just...
No.
I should shut up.
What I got in that scene where he's first riding up to go to the enemy base is really CGI. When he's first going up there, it's just like basically kind of fluttering in midair in the middle of it. But then it goes in that big scene with the holograms and everything, and that makes it pay off like super.
But it's like a quarry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just wondering how smoothly you could... I mean, I loved that scene. I especially loved the way that scene ends. But, I just don't think that's possible.
Yeah. Well, and in that scene, actually, there's this minor character story about Jayla and, like, her family getting killed and her dad dying for him and everything. And she wants to go up against this second in command who's kind of thrown off as being, suddenly a badass. We never see him being a badass before.
Right.
And now he can punch and kick and do martial arts and things like that. And she gets to the point where she's like, I'm going to face him mano a mano. And then she just kind of gets removed from the situation and everything's fine.
Yeah, but she does hold her own with him for a while there.
Yeah.
All right, what else?
I got one thing.
Okay.
Is Chris Pine contractually obligated to get his ass beat in every Star Trek and like have a black eye for every single fucking
That's a Kirk
movie?
thing, though, right? Wasn't Kirk always in fisticuffs in the original
Feels
show?
like he was.
He is always bruised up and bloodied and all kinds of shit, and he's always in a chokehold at some point in one of these movies.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, you may be, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about just this, but like the beginning of the movie is him at that, this is the funniest part of the whole.
That's great.
Him at that, he's like giving the artifact or whatever, and like two of those things, which are way smaller than we thought they were, happen to get in on the ship, and they start running around, and like there's that montage that's just so funny to watch because you're sitting there like he's talking about like feeling episodic, blah blah blah, and there's like you see a scene of these guards running and chasing him down the hallway and everything.
That's one of the best visual jokes. You thought they were huge, but they're small. That I've seen in ages. Because I was not even ready for a joke. I just thought we're kicking off an action sequence and they're coming after him, but then they turn out to be the size of little monkeys.
Yeah. You can see a lot of the Simon Pegg influence in this movie.
Yeah, you can, and that's a good thing. I think.
No, it's a very good thing.
There's a lot of good beats, like when he's saying, "So you gave your girlfriend a tracking device, right?"
Yeah.
And he's got that just expression of like, okay.
He goes, that was not my intention.
That was not my intention. That was what was so great about it, was that he's like, you gave him a home advice. He's like, you're right. In his head, you can see him. You're right. That was not my intention.
Well, and you get another laugh from it at the end when Bones looks at the necklace and looks at Spock and gives him a look and walks off.
Yeah.
I'm ready to say that the theme for this series of Trek movies is my favorite Star Trek theme music ever.
Yeah. Michael Giacchino?
It's either Giacchino or Giacchino. I can't remember.
Yeah, that score is terrific.
And that's he finds new ways to weave that theme and make it sound both familiar and like the very first notes opening. It's really quiet and peaceful, but it's the same. And the chords he lays underneath that theme. I don't know if he knew it when he picked that order of notes, but he can layer it with so many different sounds of minor chords, and
it makes it completely new.
Yeah, and again in this movie, the score is one of the strong points. He's 3 for 3 on these Star Trek movies. He's my favorite composer, but I have to mention that he was great.
Yeah, I think ultimately this movie succeeds because it cuts out so much clutter. It's simple, it's exciting, it's funny, it's all the things that you want in a summer movie. It may not be the best summer movie we've ever seen. It doesn't have to be. We're not comparing it to all the best summer movies that have ever been made. But it's the best movie I've seen this summer.
Is this the best Star Trek of the new reboot?
I think so, yeah.
This is better than
I don't think so.
The first one?
I think it's better.
I think the 2009 original is... Well, I've only seen this one once, and I've seen that one 10 times. But I would say that one's better.
Yeah.
But this one would be right under it.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine where this franchise could go if they'd skipped Into Darkness and done this one second. Might be looking at exploding, right?
Yeah.
But here they're going to have to win back some of the fans they lost with Into Darkness.
I was reading I think it's Box Office Profits that was talking about this. Star Trek, for as many of as they've made and everything, and this one made $59 million over the weekend, which is another drop from the first and the second. Despite the great reviews and everything, it still dropped. But one thing that I read was that they've made such and such amount of movies for $500 and something million. I guess it's the 3 movies, and they've only made like 1.3 billion. They're not really making lots of money. They're making sure, if you saw the amount of money these were making, like in your living room, yeah, that's a lot of money. But, but like, as far as if you're trying to sustain a huge franchise for many, many sequels, it's not making as much as something like this should to keep greenlighting movies and everything. They must get some huge, like, home video, kick in or something.
I actually have a question about that, because not only does this film have 5 opening film production logos, but 2 of them, like one looked Chinese and one looked foreign and another. I wonder if they are working with foreign markets in a way to fund the film or its distribution that helps ensure profitability.
Yeah, and it very well may be the international on this that's helping out. I don't think they do very.
Well, Alibaba was one of the production. That was one of the first ones. Was the production company, and they're huge. I mean, they're huge internationally, and they're trying to like break into the American market too.
Yeah, I don't think these make a lot internationally. I don't think they're as big a franchise as they are here by themselves. I think I think I read something that said that the last one made maybe 100 something. The first one made like 100 something. Beyond the domestic total.
Really?
It wasn't like too much. It's never been like $1 billion thing for a movie like this to come out. And the next one made more, but it had Benedict Cumberbatch, which is a huge sell overseas. So these have never been like huge internationally either.
That's weird though, because it's got such an inclusive storyline and narrative, of like, aliens and international and things like that. And that's always been the thing. You'd think that this would be a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah, you would think. And I don't know. I guess it's just that Star Trek on its own, most people are like, well, I don't know anything about Star Trek, or I don't like Star Trek, or it's very American, even though it's got all these creatures and stuff like that or whatever. I don't know. I don't think it's
weird.
Ever.
The only reason, I'm sorry, I cut you off. The only reason I think we even reviewed this is because I told you I was going to see it regardless, because my wife wanted to see it, and she had reminded me we've seen all 3 of these Star Trek movies together. She's never seen anything Trek.
Yeah.
And she saw the 2009 with me, almost dragged her there, and she loved it. And she loved this one, and she loved Into Darkness. And so there is something these new movies are doing for an audience that was previously either not interested or not aware of Trek.
And I think you can watch at least the first and the third one with having no knowledge of Trek whatsoever and enjoy it.
Yep.
The second one is so much fan service that, I mean, it, for better or worse, like if you have knowledge, it's probably better.
When I watch Into Darkness, which I still enjoy watching, by the way, I just watch it until certain moments, and I go, yeah, I wish they hadn't done that. And then I wait for the next beat and move on.
So the first one made $385 million total. And
really?
That's considering a cost of probably $150 million or so.
Wow.
The Into Darkness made $467 million total. And this one is going to make whatever it's going to make. So yeah, they're just not huge sellers in general.
There's your case for Star Wars over Star Trek, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts on this Trek movie? Where would you letter grade this thing?
I would probably give it a B+, A-, somewhere around there.
B+.
I would go B+.
All right. Well, and that's sad, the state of cinema, when a B+ movie is the first one we've been able to really rave about all summer.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if this had come out in a summer where there were a lot of great movies, we'd still enjoy this probably.
I think so.
I mean, I don't think it. There may be some elevation to the mean here that we're like, oh, this is just good by default or whatever. But I think I'd enjoy this regardless. I think it's just one of those, and maybe this will. I mean, maybe it'll get some word of mouth and it'll be a big hit. Although Jason Bourne's going to take almost all of its.
I would think
next week, but I think it could find a good life on home video. It's hard to believe we're talking about that with a movie that made $60 million over the weekend. But
just a question about it, though. If this had come out in October or even the holiday season, would it have done better?
I don't think so.
You don't think?
I think I don't know. They came out, the main problem I see with this movie is that they came out with trailers that nobody liked.
Yeah.
And that was it, period.
Even the writers.
Yeah, nobody liked the trailers. And then I didn't even know when it was coming out for a really long time. Like, I didn't see any trailers for this. It's almost like Paramount was like, well, we're just not going to do any more trailers. We'll do a few when the movie's about to come out. And the awareness of it wasn't very high. So, and they didn't know what to focus on, apparently, in these trailers. I would have given people a lot of Jayla, and I would have given there's so many cool things they could have put in those trailers that they decided not to. So I don't know, but I am totally on board with this movie, and it's the best movie I've seen this summer.
Yep. Hopefully that changes in a few days, but only because I really want Jason Bourne to be good.
I want Jason Bourne to be good as well. I can't wait to see it. But anyway, that's our thoughts on Star Trek Beyond. We will be back for another minipod for Jason Bourne for real next time.
For
real. But that's the Sincast for this. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, and Barrett Share. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit CinemaSins.com.
We're seeing that also with that Ice Age movie that came out over the weekend where the domestic was horrible, but they don't care.
Right.
This is the clearest don't care about what the domestic makes that I've ever seen of a movie, because it's pointless, but
it's going to make bank overseas.
It makes bank overseas, and that's all they care about with that movie.
Yeah, I saw an interesting, because we're getting really off topic here. I saw an interesting article where Matt Damon was talking about movies that don't get made anymore these days, like Beyond the Candelabra. They couldn't get funded, even though they had all these big stars, and he said that Soderbergh told him The Informant, if they were making it today, they'd be on HBO.
Yeah,
studios just won't put 40 or 60 million into a movie like that anymore, which kind of ties back to something we talked about in a previous podcast. And maybe you should just cut this part out because it's completely unrelated to Star Trek, because Chris was in it, and I almost never remember my dreams.
Okay.
And in real life, Chris is not a big Starbucks guy, from what I know.
Mm-hmm.
So the dream is me and Chris are at a table outside of a Starbucks on a sidewalk, and we're both just finishing our drinks. Now, in this dream world, instead of ice, there are green cloth balls in the cups, and that's just accepted in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
That instead of ice, you get green cloth balls. And What I noticed is that Chris's had twice as many as my cup. And I said, they gave you more filler than they gave me. And Chris goes, it's good. And I said, what'd you get? And you remember that episode where Seinfeld stays in Kramer's apartment and then ends up talking like Kramer, like my friend Bob Sacramento? Yeah. Like, that's how Chris is talking. And he goes, very, very hibiscus. Takes another sip. And then he goes, hey, look, it's Natalie Portman, and points. And Natalie Portman walks by.
Nice.
That's a great dream.
If I'm going to remember a dream, I'm glad it's that, because that's just kooky.
B+.
Look at all my shit.